Take two. I just recorded this entire 16-minute video and realized that upon watching it, that the mic was not plugged in, so we're redoing it. Here's my gear review. I guess I'm a gear reviewer now. I never thought of myself as a gear reviewer, but I have so much stuff that I might as well start doing it. Because I've got the ZVE1, I've got the Osmo Pocket 3, I've got, the Samyang 85mm 1.4, I've got the 14mm, the 12 to 24, the 16 to 35mm G Master, I've got drones, I've got all this stuff. So I think I'm gonna start doing some gear reviews because I just completed this, and had the audio been working great, it would have been fantastic. I had a ton of fun doing it. So I'm doing it again for you instead of getting mad and going home. Here are my thoughts on these three lenses. I'll give you the brief backstory. I started real estate photography with a Sony a7 III, and I borrowed this lens actually for my first ever real estate photography shoot. It's a great lens, 12 to 24mm f4 Sony lens. It's a G lens. It's not the G Master, but it's a really, really good lens. I've never used it for video, to be completely honest, but I have used it for a whole lot of photos. So I gave this back to my sister and I bought a 16 to 35mm f4 Zeiss lens. I got two bad copies in a row, promptly returned both of them. And then I got a Sigma 14 to 24mm f2.8, which is a fantastic lens. And a whole lot of people compare it to the Sony 12 to 24mm f2.8 G Master lens because it's very similar quality for about half the price. I bought that for $1,300 new. And then I upgraded the Sony a7 III to an a7S III. Kind of shot myself in the foot because I never bought a V90 SD card. So I was, using this incredible camera, but not taking advantage of the full sensor capabilities because I also had a really crappy PC, all this stuff. Supremely good lens. This is another really, really good lens that I used primarily for photos. Also in this video, keep in mind, these two lenses are for sale because I don't need them anymore, thanks to this bad boy, which we'll talk about in just a minute. The 12 to 24mm takes supremely good photos. It takes probably good video. Maybe I'm too snooty to take a video with this f4 lens because it's not an f2.8 lens. But I primarily got this lens back from my sister. I bought it from her ultimately after switching back to Sony after a brief hiatus doing Canon. And I was using my phone. I had a 14 Pro Max that I used for listing videos, and I upgraded to the 15 Pro Max and did really, really good listing videos, had a ton of fun with it. But then I bought the Sony ZVE1, and then I was still using this lens for photos, and then I was using this for video because I bought this to do vlogs and YouTube videos and stuff. And I was like, well, I have the camera that's an FX3 sensor, an A7S III sensor. Let's start using it. So I bought a V90 card, and then I bought this 14mm Samyang f2.8 prime lens. It is a good lens. I'll show you some clips of what this is capable of producing. There are some things I don't like about it. The first kind of big thing, and this is a budget lens. So I bought this for $300 used from Facebook Marketplace and one of the Sony buy and sell groups. This is a good lens. Don't get me wrong. I do not like that it doesn't have an autofocus, manual focus switch on the side of it. Switch nowhere to be found, and button nowhere to be found as well. No programmable button. Whereas both of these lenses have that programmable button. The 16 to 35 has it, and the 12 to 24mm have it, as well as the autofocus, manual focus switch. Super, super handy. So when you're switching between doing photos and video on your hybrid camera and switching lenses, there's no quick way to, you have to stop recording, go back into settings, change it to manual focus, or, map one of the front buttons on there. But it's really, really nice to be able to have this switch that can just change it right then and there. So that's what I really, really like and don't really, really like about this lens. But if this is your budget, if this is what you're trying to get into, you want a photography lens and a videography lens, it's a fast f2.8 aperture lens for your real estate photos and your real estate videos, this is a really, really good lens. So with this being a third-party lens, it is not a Sony lens. There will be some compatibility things, focus breathing might be a problem. The autofocus might hunt and not really focus it where you want it to focus, like as seen in a couple of these wide shots right here that I'll show you. But overall, if you just leave the camera in manual focus for your videos and you're controlling where you want this lens to be, it is a good lens. The next lens that I want to talk about, this lens, like I said, I just used it for photography. This is the Sony 12 to 24mm f4G lens. It is not the G Master lens. It is just the f4. I've used this for about the last year and a half. on all my shoots, most of the photos being taken at, you're going to crucify me, at 12 millimeters. 12 millimeters is supremely wide. 14 millimeters is supremely wide. But it is really handy to be able to take photos like that whenever you need to. The downside of this lens, I didn't notice until I bought this. Now, this is the Sony 16 to 35 millimeter G Master Mark I lens. This is my first G Master lens. I bought this 2 days ago and I took it on a shoot yesterday. I bought it for that, the first shoot that I had for this brokerage that does the really nice, basically $6 million homes and up. And they're all big homes. So I was like, well, this is going to be too wide. Even at the 24 millimeters, this might be too wide. Let's get the 16 to 35 millimeters so I can go into 35 millimeters and then crop in more if I need to for nice compression for those higher end homes. This is the way to go. I didn't expect how much better this 16 to 35 millimeter G Master lens would be than this 12 to 24 millimeter f4 lens. It blew me out of the water. So I'm going to show you some video examples first, and we'll talk about the video aspect of this because it's a really nice lens for video. They're just supremely sharp. They're excellent photos. The autofocus is great. There's no focus hunting, focus breathing. There's nothing that happens like that with this 16 to 35 millimeter G Master f2.8 lens. It's amazing. The main thing that I liked about this Sony 12 to 24 millimeter, briefly before we go to this, is that it has an internal zoom. So you can go like this and the barrel's not going to move at all. It's just going to stay in the same spot. This 16 to 35 millimeter f2.8 lens does not have an internal zoom. So it comes out just a little bit when you go to 16 millimeters and then come down to 35 millimeters. It's not that big of a deal, and I haven't noticed any issues when I'm on my gimbal and I zoom into 35 millimeters, and it stays balanced for the most part. Like if you hold the gimbal straight up, it might vibrate a little bit, but if you hold it forward, it's going to be fine. Supremely sharp lens in the photos, in the videos, everything about this. The photos are fantastic. The video is fantastic. There's really nothing to not like about this lens except mainly the price. But I talked about that a little bit. So I bought a few years ago the Sigma 14 to 24 millimeter f2.8 lens, which is a great lens. I didn't take advantage of it because, again, I didn't use a V90 card and all that fun stuff. But I decided when I got the ZVE1 to, yes, let's get the V90 card. Let's get the really good lenses. And I bought this 2 days ago for $1,100, $1,150 to be exact. He posted it for $1,300. I said, hey, I need to buy it today. Can I come pick it up for $1,150? He said, sure, but I'm firm at $1,150. Don't try and talk me down anymore. We had a nice talk about real estate photography because he did real estate photography about an hour north of me. I bought this lens. I took it on my first shoot with it yesterday. I finished the photos and sent them to the client. They were blown away by the photos. And when I was editing the video, this lens is something really, really, really special. And I understand why G Master exists. I understand why people go for the G Master, the really expensive lenses. For the longest time, I was like, oh, why would I can get a good enough result. And I do talk about getting a good enough result in my real estate photography business videos, but there comes a time to make a logical jump to where good enough isn't enough anymore because you're doing $2,000 shoots. You might have to get the best of the best. And I didn't opt for getting the G Master Mark II, even though it's a little bit lighter, it's a little bit smaller, it's a little bit better in maybe every single way, minor tweaks, but it's like $500 more expensive. But I was like, let's just get this. And this blew me away. The G Master Mark I, the G Master Mark II, they'll have differences, but as far as the image quality goes, there's not much more that you can improve on, in my opinion, than this lens. This is really, really, really good. This was cheaper. I spent less money on this than I did on my 14 to 24 millimeter f2.8 Sigma lens, also for Sony back in the day. They're all good lenses. Don't get me wrong. I'm sure this could do really good video, but I thought that this took really great photos until I reviewed these photos for the first time and was truly blown away by how much sharper, how much, the photos being on this YouTube video aren't doing it justice. I mean, viewing them on my big monitor, and I was like, oh my God, this is crazy. And this is with a 12 megapixel Sony ZVE1. I can't even imagine if you slap this thing on like an A7R5 or something crazy like that. But which lens should you get? I know this is kind of an odd pair up. You've got the $300 Samyang 14 millimeter f2.8 against the f4 lens, which is a 12 to 24 millimeter. So we got prime, zoom f4, zoom f2.8 really expensive, but this I bought for $900. So in the progression of things, budget, medium budget, and buying new, I think this thing was like $2,000 new or something like that. I didn't get it for that, but that's the logical progression of things. Is you start with something pretty small, and then you need a zoom, but maybe you have to downgrade away from f2.8 to f4, and then you make enough money to reinvest and get the f2.8 G Master or Sigma f2.8 or whatever you want to do. But there is something very, very unique and beautiful about this lens. So if you are wanting to take your real estate materials to the next level, to really have that awe and that wow showcase, like, wow, these photos are incredible, this bad boy is going to be the one for you. I did mention that both these two lenses are for sale, and that's because this can do it all. I no longer need a photography lens and a videography lens. This can cover both of them. Heck, I don't really even need the Samyang 1.4 because this zooms into 35 millimeters, and then I can do super 35 mode and then film in like 50 millimeters or whatever. So that is kind of the whole shebang of it. I'm keeping this lens. I'm going to sell these two. This is for sale for like 300 bucks. I'm going to try and sell this for 900. So if you're interested, comment down below. But let me know what you thought about this kind of gear review. I know this was kind of a stupid non-YouTuber great gear review where, you know, a lot of them are so amazing. They put all this effort and stuff. I'm just showcasing the lenses that I've used in my business and told you my thoughts about them. So if you got some value out of it, or you enjoyed sitting here and listening to me talk and spending a little bit of time with me, slap that like button, leave a comment on which lens, if you've had. I'm curious to hear your thoughts. If you have any experience with any 1, 2, or 3 of these lenses, tell me what you think. But that's all for this video. I've got some cool stuff coming. Maybe I'll do some more gear reviews because I've got so many cameras and lenses and drones and all that stuff. I've finally sold a few of the cameras that I had. I sold the 5D Mark III and the Sigma 12 to 24 millimeter f4 lens, which could have been in this pair up, but it was for EF, all these for Sony. And I sold my Canon R7 as well. So I'm slowly shrinking down, but I've still got too much. So maybe I'll sit down and do more of these because this was really fun. I was like super excited to review the footage and, like, you know, just see what I made. And then I was like, why doesn't it have any audio? Where's the audio, huh? And then I realized, I looked down to my left and I was like, wow, the USB is not plugged in for this little mic right here. Go Jordan, good job. But that's all for this video. I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.